So a 2-0 win for Liverpool against Aston Villa. Sluggish enough again from the champions, but they got the job done in the second half with goals from Sadio Mane and Curtis Jones. Damien Delaney was alongside me. You reading anything into any of these Liverpool performances between now and the end of the season?
Not the performances. I think I'm reading a little bit into team selection today. As I said, possibly he's looking at his midfield, shaking that up a little bit, giving Keita extended minutes, giving him another chance. I know he's not set the world alight, but he's still finding his feet a little bit. Gave Oxlade-Chamberlain, and I do think if Liverpool are going to evolve and move forward, it's that midfield area, and maybe he just wants to have a look at that makeup, because I did like the look of it. On paper it looked quite good. Fabinho sitting, lots of legs, lots of energy, but Keita just fails to impose himself on the game. Oxlade-Chamberlain actually reasonably well today. He got about, put some nice crosses in. He's effective. Whether he's going to give you 50 games a season the way the other lads will, I'm not sure. So maybe you just want to have a look at that midfield trio, see how it did. But we found out after an hour that he wasn't best pleased with it, and he got him off quick enough and got the tried and trusted on.
Well, how frustrated is he going to be with that then? Because he made 3 changes from the Manchester City team, and an hour in he needs to bring on the big boys. He needs to bring on Henderson, Wijnaldum and Firmino. That he gave players a chance and they didn't take it.
Yeah, I mean, look, there's two ways of looking at it. He gave him a chance because he wanted to look to the future as well. Origi starting too, so he gave him a chance, so they want to look to the future. But also, he gave him a chance to reward them for their patience all season. Guys that wouldn't necessarily have played every week, they're not guaranteed starters. They're still putting in the same hours as everyone else is, although they're not playing on a Saturday, but they train on a Sunday the day after. And I know that a lot of teams will, the 11 that don't play on a Saturday, they'll train on a Sunday morning while the others are doing a recovery, and they'll do the same numbers in a session in terms of distance covered that the lads did on a Saturday. So they are working equally as hard as everyone, and you've got to reward these guys. You've got to give them some sort of a carrot, some sort of a kind of a pat on the head to say, listen. So there's an element of that, and there's also an element of like, right, prove to me that I was wrong to not play you guys from the start of the season. But today he just kind of went, well, I think I was right to keep sticking with Henderson and Wijnaldum. But moving forward, those 3 can't last forever. Henderson is, I think, I won't say on the wane a little bit, but I think he's going to have to limit his numbers a little bit more than what he has done this year, because I know he has dragged them quite a few times. But where do they go from here? And I know the Klopp will certainly be thinking about that.
Yeah, and look, Liverpool are 23 points clear now. They've won the league with 7 games to go, so they're in a very unusual situation in that people are going to be watching these games between now and the end of the season and reading a whole lot into them and judging players. And we've had 3 guys come in today, not make an impression. Minamino started a couple of weeks ago, was taken off at half time. The question of Liverpool has been about depth, that their first 11 we know is arguably the best 11 in Europe when they're playing at their peak. But can they keep going into what will be a 3rd, 4th season of competing at the very highest level without depth and without the players who come in and are asked to come in consistently and putting pressure on the 11, which is the other thing, because
absolutely.
It feels as though that those players on the outside are the backup. You never look at any of them and think, geez, he's really putting Wijnaldum under pressure for a starting 11.
I agree with you, and you're asking these questions, and I think Jurgen Klopp will be asking these questions, but he'll already have an idea or an inkling of like the route he wants to go. I've said numerous times before, he's 4 transfer windows ahead of where he wants to be. He'll have a dossier this thick on his desk of where he wants Liverpool to be in 2 years, the brand of football they want to play, the type of player they want to play, the youth they want to bring through, and exactly the path that they're on. He's not a manager that's won the league and he's going to go and have a good time for a month and then come back in the summer and go, right, where are we going from here, lads? I guarantee you he'll have teams of analysts behind the scenes scouring Europe, looking for players to come in, players that can fit the direction he may want to go in.
What if they don't, though? Because he has said that with the financial crisis, no, not in terms of the scouts scouring Europe, but what if nobody comes in? Do you think Liverpool can contest for a Premier League and Champions League again next season if they don't have reinforcements?
If Liverpool don't get anyone else in, I can't imagine anyone else. So if this pandemic has affected football and everything gets scaled back, then everything gets scaled back. Man City are going to struggle, and it's going to be the status quo. Manchester United might be a little bit stronger because they've blooded so many youth players that are kind of on an upward curve, whereas Liverpool are potentially, if they don't reinvest or reinvigorate that squad. Man City have already gone over the crest. They're on the way down. They need to come again. So he does need to invest. He will invest. They have money. Their net spend is something like 100 million, so there will be cash available to him. But he's not just going to spend it willy-nilly. He's not just going to get in players for the sake of it. He will have a clear plan, a clear path wherever he wants to go.
Today was their 24th straight victory at Anfield in the Premier League. They've won every game at Anfield this season. I think they're now in 57 games unbeaten at Anfield. You were part of the last team to win there with Crystal Palace over 3 years ago. In fact, you were part of a couple of Crystal Palace teams that won at Anfield, the games that we covered at the time on Off the Ball. And they're games that always stand out of the atmosphere around the Liverpool supporters towards the Liverpool players and the lack of trust they had, that even when they went in front like they did, I think Philip Coutinho scored that day, that they never fully trusted the team would hold on. There were so many defensive mistakes. Can you talk a bit about how they've turned it into such a fortress? All right, the fans aren't there at the moment, but what he has done over the last 3 years, from a ground you probably went to thinking, you know what, we can unsettle these guys, to a ground where they're just unflappable.
Well, that comes from 30 years of, I won't say misery, because they did have a lot of success in the Champions League, but they had a long period in that 30 years where there some short periods where they were very, very good, but they had long periods where they were continuously disappointed. So fans are going to a ground and they have that feeling of being disappointed. They bring that with them. What this guy has done, Klopp, has come in and he's just galvanised the whole thing. You know, he really has. You know, he's big, powerful personality, big, strong guy. He's come in and said, this is Liverpool, we don't leave early. You know, you support your team right in the dying minute. But then he's obviously provided evidence that is possible. I mean, one of the jokes that was going around about Klopp was the day he made against West Brom, he made all the players do that saluting the crowd thing.
For a 2-2 draw.
For a 2-2 draw. And then that was a stick that he was beaten with pretty regularly over the last number of years. But it was a message to the fans that, like, you know, we're not perfect, but we try and we're doing our damnedest to get this team back to where it is. And the fans kind of would buy into that and they'd go, we drew 2-2. And on the face of it, 2-2 at West Brom, well, what are you doing over here? Get in there and go training. But it was almost a case of, listen, we stuck at this game and we have our flaws, but I tell you what, we give everything that we have and we're on the path to going somewhere. So that's what he's done. You know, he's got the fans back on side. He's got them believing again. He's, you know, when we first got the job, there was pictures of him sitting in Liverpool pubs having pints or eating fish and chips, or a cafe, I think it was, having a fry up or something like that. And a lot of people might dismiss that as kind of PR for Liverpool and stuff like that. But I think he seems like a genuine kind of fella, you know, where he would go walk into a bar, order a pint of John Smith's and sit down with you, you know. Do
managers go into the opposition dressing rooms after games at Premier League level?
I've had it, yeah.
Did the last time around when you beat Liverpool 2-1, did he arrive in?
No, he caught us coming up the steps, really, because after it was his first defeat. And we'd won, and obviously we went over to our fans and we spent 5 minutes there, you know, applauding our fans. So by the time we got back in, Liverpool were in their changing room, and as we were coming up those old steps underneath the Anfield sign, I was giving it the old woo, you know what I mean? You know, and I genuinely wasn't doing it to wind up Liverpool. Honestly, I wasn't. But he took exception to that.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and you know, when you come up the steps, you know, the home change room was there and the away changing room was here, so we came up the steps, and just as we were turning right, I tell you, the door flung open at a pace, and your man, and he's a big man, he's 6'4", I'd say, you know, and he came out like, and he had the scowl on him and the glasses were on and he just stared, and I went, ooh. But he took exception to that,
right? That
we were disrespecting unintentionally, that maybe we were disrespecting. Well, I was anyway, you know, but I didn't care. I just kind of looked at him and went, quickly got the changing room. But you know,
you weren't going to square up to him,
right?
What's the problem?
But you could tell that, like, you know, I understood there now, because when he came up to change room, I thought, oh shit, maybe I have slightly disrespect, and I didn't want. That wasn't my intention at all.
Yeah.
You know, and you know, we were just chuffed that we won 2-1 at Anfield. How many people can say they've won a game at Anfield? It's a big thing. But I quickly quietened down and almost kind of noddily went, I didn't mean any disrespect, you know, and I quickly got in my changing room.
So you think of your attitude when you used to go to Anfield, and you look at, say, 10 days ago, Crystal Palace, who had been in brilliant form, come to Anfield, literally don't touch the ball in the Liverpool penalty area for the entire game. Aston Villa come to Anfield today, little or no ambition but to come away somehow with a 0-0 draw. Psychologically, do you think opponents' attitude towards going to Anfield has changed dramatically over the last 3 years?
Absolutely. You look at the way Liverpool start games of football. I remember reading a stat, I can't remember the exact stat, but I mean, they had a large chunk of their games won within the first 11-12 minutes. You know, that if Liverpool got in front, they just come out the traps quickly and they just blow you away, like Manchester United do under like Ferguson. It was the same thing. They would just come out the traps and just like say, you're not getting settled here, this is our house. A bit like me walking up the steps that time. This is my house, you don't come into my house and disrespect me. You beat me, but you don't disrespect me. And I think he has that attitude. And when a manager has that, I've always said I'm a big believer that teams take on the personality of their managers. And he felt that if someone was showing a little bit of disrespect in our house, I'm not standing for that. I'm going to swing that door open and I'm going to stare down whoever's doing it because this is my house. And I have a lot of respect for that, and that looks like the type of guy that he is.
On Aston Villa then, they're still inside the relegation zone. Do you give them any hope of surviving?
The possibility of Watford could be worse, ever so slightly, but it won't be anything that Aston Villa do. Watford have Norwich at home, their next game. Villa are going to Man United. There could be a nice little swing there where Villa find themselves 3 points in the relegation zone, and then Villa have Crystal Palace at home. And if Villa win that, the best they're going to do is going to go level with Watford, but in it on goal difference as well. So there's 6 games left. That's 4 left after that, best case scenario. So the Villa go to and get beaten at United and Watford. This is the way I used to break it down in my head. And Watford beat Norwich, all things being equal, you're 3 points in it with 4 games to go. And even if you beat Palace at home, you need results to go your way. So I would probably say, I'm guessing here, to be honest, I don't know. But
yeah, you do look and wonder where the goals will come from, and they've dried up completely since the restart for Villa, and so much of it comes down to Jack Grealish. And Graham Souness caused a bit of a stir before the game where he said yet to been fully convinced by Jack Grealish and that he's a player he'd love to play against, the player he could probably get at. If they go down, the expectation will be Grealish will go and will go to one of the top 4. Is he at that level?
Yeah, I think he is. I think he's a fantastic player. At the minute, he's the only bright spark. Well, actually, when he said Tyrone Mings will go as well, by the way, and I think he'll go quicker than Grealish. I think Grealish there'll be a haggling over the fee and stuff, but I think someone's going to come in and take Tyrone Mings straight out of a Villa team and a good side as well. You know, if I was looking at, sorry to get off topic from your point, but if I was looking at Aston Villa team and I was Jose Mourinho, I would be thinking, I want Tyrone Mings on my side. That's the type of player that I want in my side right now. Go and get me him. I don't care what he costs, and get me him quick so I can build over the course of the season. But to go back to Grealish's point, there'll be a lot of media attention and furore around that, and Villa will play hardball. They'll want to get the maximum price for him. He's definitely a player for the right price I have in my squad. He's a talented boy. Whether he can go on and play 50 games a season to the level that Gini Wijnaldum can play at, or the level that a Raheem Sterling, I know they're different types of players, but that level where he can chuck out 40, 8, 9, 10 out of games a season remains to be seen, but he's definitely a player someone would look. I think United would look at him almost certainly with the profile that United are going for now. I think he would fit in with them quite nicely.
You mentioned Jose Mourinho, Spurs against Everton tomorrow, and Spurs, it seems, totally out of the running for a Champions League place. You've got a lot of love from. Is the Jose Mourinho you're seeing now the Jose Mourinho you fell in love with?
No, he looks like a guy that's gone 12 rounds with a heavyweight boxer. He really looks like he's down on his luck at the minute. He's clutching at straws every week coming out. You know, I know he might be right in a lot of what he says, but it's a tiring record now, coming out blaming VAR, blaming this, blaming it's never his fault. He took the job, and he knew from his meetings with Daniel Levy what the parameters were, or what the requirements were. You know, he didn't just take the job and walk in and have a look around the squad and go, oh, by the way, I need X, Y and Z, and Levy goes, there's no money. You know, I'm pretty sure when he went to interview for the job or met Daniel Levy, he would say, this is what I need. If Levy said, I can't give you that, I'd be shocked if Jose took the job. You know, so if Jose said, I need this, and Daniel Levy said, okay, I'll get it for you, he's entitled to look around now and go, where are the reinforcements? You've lulled me into a false sense of security here. And
that's all fair enough, but has he actually improved any of the players that were there?
No, he hasn't.
You talk about Klopp and the power of Klopp there. Like, does Mourinho's reputation precede him now? So Jose Mourinho, when he arrived at Chelsea, and here, it's 15 years ago, the world moves on very quickly. How excited the likes of Damien Duff were to play under Jose Mourinho, the most exciting young coach in the world at that stage. When he was arriving at Tottenham, are those players excited, or have they heard, like, do stories go around in football about managers quite quickly? Are they thinking, this guy's going to come in, look what he did at United, he destroyed them?
You talk about reputation going before him. Jose creates that reputation. You know, he's the one that's built this kind of persona that he has now of being a grumpy old man that's never happy and complaining and blaming outside factors continuously. He took the job, so I've got no sympathy for him. He knew what Tottenham Hotspur were about. Pochettino got Spurs to Champions League final and didn't get backed in the transfer market. That's why he lost his job. Pochettino's still a fantastic manager, and he will end up with a top club very, very soon. But Pochettino couldn't get it out of him. Jose may have been promised, he may not have been, I don't know. I just hope he didn't panic and take the Spurs job because he was out of football for so long and he thought, I need to get back in, I need to keep my face into football. And he took the job knowing that there wasn't money there. It was an ageing squad, it was a declining squad. It was nowhere near what it was supposed to be. I can't imagine what Jose signed up for. And it's not looking very good for my my man.
Well, it's one thing John Giles always says about management, that it's about signing players, that he can't understand the modern era where there's a committee of people who sign players, that he feels the managers have to be able to sign players or you can't judge them on that. Do you think that's the way with Mourinho, that if he can't bring in his own players, you can't properly judge him? Or does the modern manager actually have to deal with the hands they're dealt?
No, I think the modern managers accept the hands that they're dealt, but they know their hands before they get it, if you know what I mean. When they go meet the chairman, they know what's available, what money is available, who can I re-sign, who can we bring in. A lot of the owners own these clubs now are big personalities with a lot of money, and they're not just going to give a manager, and plus a Premier League manager job is so all-encompassing at the minute now that it's very difficult for him to stay on top of all of that. So sometimes they do outsource the transfers to a director of football, but I think it's very important that the manager has a good relationship with the director of football, and I think it's very important that the director of football is chosen by the manager, because if the director of football is chosen by the owners, there can be a little line there. So it's almost a case of that director of football works with the owner, he's not my guy. You look at Liverpool, they're all on the same page. You just know they're in the meetings. Klopp calls the shots, the director of footballer puts in place what Klopp wants. Tottenham seem to have a different model. Lots of clubs have different models, but Jose needs his own director of football, and he wants certain players in. If he can't, and then a lot of time what happens to these managers is they'll say, I want this player, and they'll give him 3 names. If you can't get me those players, get me these players. If you can't get me those players, this is the profile of the player that I want. Okay, he needs to be a certain height, a certain able to operate at a certain level in terms of physically. He needs to be able to do X amount of meters a game. He needs to be able to do it 50 times a season. No, the director of football and the other analysts will go and they'll scour Europe to find players that fit that profile of what Jose is looking for. If he can't go and get the players that he knows has those, like a Timo Werner, who we know puts up the numbers because he's played in that Leipzig system, and you know straight away he's part of that. But you cannot unearth some gems around Europe just by going off your profile of what you want. So that's what Jose would have been looking for. He doesn't seem to have gotten any of it, and it's almost getting sad a little bit. I am.
You seem to be the only one I think who's quite sad about it. You and the Tottenham supporters.
Yeah, I like him.
He's let you down.
I know. I feel.
Why do you love Jose so much?
I just do. He's my guy.
Did he storm out of a dressing room and
he did,
rub you across the head one day and say, "This guy"?
When you get the old back of the neck from Jose, you get the old, and
that made you feel good.
And he's not what he portrays himself to be. I don't know him, but I have had some little bit of dealings with him, and he is that guy, and it just seems he's losing his shine. And Joe and yourself are delighted because I've spoke him up all year, and people enjoying beating me with that, and I know Joe is definitely.
Before we wrap up, the list of great centre halves from Cork in the Premier League was quite short for a long time. You were top of that very short list. You're under a bit of pressure now because John Egan, scored a brilliant goal today. I'll just transfer him to Kerry and I'll keep hold of my spot down in Schneem or Carsavine, wherever he's from, but I'll just transfer him down there. But look, it's great to see. It's absolutely fantastic. It's great for Irish football that we have a guy so prominent in the Premier League, playing every week, contributing in a massive way. It was goal today, and you saw that when he got suspended, he came straight back in the team, which is a fantastic sign. The manager put him straight back in. That's how much he believes in him, and I know that him and the manager have a history together. And a good sign for Egan as well, because we covered that game against Newcastle where the red card was poor defending. Shouldn't have got himself in that position. Didn't seem to affect him. Absolutely not. I think the manager knew straight away, okay, I'll just get through this game as best we can, and John will come straight back in. But I know full well that if you get sent off, the manager might hold that against you a little bit and think, well, look, you know what, I'm going to look at other options here because that was unnecessary. He didn't play great that game, but he was straight back in, and he's on such a crest of waves now, John, that he came straight back in the team and done so well, which means the manager has utmost of faith in him. I guarantee you John didn't even get fined for that red card. Normally he would get some sort of a fine for a red card, but I guarantee the manager went, there'll be no fine for you, son. What are the list of fines? Is it just for a red card? Do you get fined for giving away a penalty in injury time? No, absolutely not. No, nothing like that. No, but if you get a red card, look, maybe 2 yellows, not so much, but for violent conduct, if you punch someone or you do something really off the wall. But I've had managers that have fined me before for getting, red card. Right. Yeah. I was more wondering, did Alan Pardew find you that time you fouled Benteke and cost Palace the game against Liverpool at Selhurst Park? He probably did, but I didn't even I was so destroyed. Anyway, man, yeah. He didn't. I don't think he did. No. It was when someone makes a genuine attempt like that, and clearly he dived for that as well. No. You caught him with your knee. He winded me up. Seriously. Have you seen it back?
Absolutely.
We covered
not.
the game. At first, we were like, clear dive, the clearest dive you've ever seen. But you slid in, you caught him with your knee. It was one of the greatest decisions an assistant referee has ever made. And nobody from Palace could acknowledge that, which just shows referees have no chance.
Will I tell you a funny story?
Go on.
Right, about 3 weeks after that, we had that assistant referee doing a game, and he apologised to me.
What?
Absolutely.
But you touched them.
He didn't. He said there's contact and enough to push someone over. There's a distinction. You see the Salah one today. I mean, that was way more contact. I brushed him. There has to be enough contact for someone to go over. Anyway, I'm definitely over it. It's fine.
What did you say to Benteke then when he signed for you?
No, it's fine, man. You know, let it go. I'm not the type to hold a grudge.
Clearly not. Great stuff as always, Damien.
Thanks, man. Thanks.